you ready to embark on a new topic for this final term, everyone? I hope everyone is um, paying attention. So, we will talk about peripheral arterial disease. This module somewhat tawag ito, patterned or parang mirrored, no? Para siyang mirror on our topic na ACS. Ay, ano ba yan? Parang dyslexic si ma'am. ACS. Okay. So, peripheral arterial disease is almost the same with coronary artery disease. Okay. It involves pathology in the artery, but it is different in the location of the artery. With regards to coronary, these are located, the arteries that are located, the main arteries of our heart. Okay? But for peripheral artery, based on the video that you have seen a while ago, it is the peripheral or the one that is part or found in our limbs. Okay? So it's part or found in our lower limbs, in our legs going down to our foot. So we will learn this afternoon pharmacotherapy and clinical management of peripheral arterial disease, or we call it as PAD. So these are our learning outcomes for this afternoon. For the pathophysiology of PAD, I have given you the video a while ago to explain shortly the different organs or what are the things happening leading to the development of peripheral arterial disease. It was mentioned in the video about atherosclerotic formation, if you have watched it already. This time, atherosclerotic development happens in the limbs of the patient. Okay, so I hope you're able to watch and listen well, listen intently to the video presentation. This number 2, recognize signs and symptoms of PAD in clinical and community settings. So later I will discuss this. Identify risk factors and recommend appropriate screening and diagnostic strategies. We are not diagnosing as pharmacists, but we help with screening, and we can also guide giving what are the best diagnostic strategies for a certain patient. Okay, so we still have that as our role. Then we are expected to develop evidence-based pharmacological and, of course, non-pharmacological treatment for patients with PAD. So it is very obvious in our previous lectures that non-pharmacological is equally important with the pharmacological treatment. And most of the time, when we design or when we are asked to develop our pharmacotherapy, our first goal is to provide non-pharmacological management to our patients. Okay? So as pharmacist class, do not really discount non-pharmacological management, because these are preventive measures. And we can only give preventive measures to our patients if we have proper monitoring and communication with a good channel of communication to our patients. Meaning to say, we are there with them from the start, hence we can still provide preventive measures. But in reality, in what really happens in the actual scenario if we were going to look at our setting right now in the Philippines. We receive patients in the community not knowing them really in depth, right? We don't really give attention to the background or to the backstory, to the history of the present illness, stuff like that. In reality, in the community setting, no, we are talking about the community setting, most of the time, we refer our patients as RX, a statistic or RX, a, a prescription to be filled. Okay, so that is sad fact, but we have to remind ourselves not to do that. Okay, so you have to practice developing evidence-based management to our patients and not just refer to them as a prescription to be filled. We are asked to apply therapeutic goals to optimize outcomes, reduce cardiovascular risk, and most importantly, we are part of this prevention of our patients to lose their limbs. No? If we fail our if we fail to play our role in that channel of communication, in the channel of treatment, or in that management, we are one of the people responsible for the loss of our patient's limbs due to complications. And importantly, we need to counsel patients regarding medication adherence because for patients who are suffering peripheral arterial disease, PAD class, peripheral arterial disease is not an early onset, like you can detect it like fever and infection. It's not like that. Peripheral arterial disease, most of the time, is among the last in the cardio cycle. So most of the time, it starts with hypertension, essential, meaning there's no reason at all that the patient's having hypertensive episodes leading to essential hypertension. And then there will be dyslipidemia. Most of the time, merong CAD na nade-develop. And ito yung, this PAD is overshadowed by CAD. And this is the last in the cycle that is being identified, diagnosed, managed, and of course addressed. So that this one is really possible, limb loss. Okay. Also, we will monitor patients on antiplatelet and anticoagulant therapies and address drug-specific considerations in special populations. Okay, so these are our learning objectives for FYI para sa lahat. Please read it once again. So I have prepared here a very short and practical introduction about peripheral arterial disease. This is derived from a study and also from DiPiro. Okay, so peripheral arterial disease, as mentioned, PAD. It is a form of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. What we commonly mentioned before during dyslipidemia, we have ASCVD. So ASCVD is a very big term, and one of the form of it is PAD, affecting arteries outside the coronary and, as I've mentioned, in the lower extremities. So PAD is a major cause of morbidity, functional impairment, and mortality, especially for those who are adult. It's mentioned here, who are adult. Study says PAD is one of the highest cause of death among elderlies, especially because they have less dex, tawag yan, less movements, less walking, more on lying down. Example, they are not ambulatory anymore. If they are not ambulatory, they are not able to walk. So if they have PAD and they are on top of PAD, they're lying on the bed for a long time. So the function, the blood is pulled on the lower limbs and causes different pathologic events such as thrombosis. So, ay pangit ng combination. Sorry. Thrombosis is most likely to occur if PAD happens to elderly. Okay, so what do you know about thrombosis before, during our lecture last time? Ano yung nangyayari pag may thrombosis? Okay? So, pwedeng magkaroon ng embolus. No, iba din yung DVT kasi the DVT is on the veins, ha? So, pwede ding magkaroon ng embolus at aakyat at pupunta at magpupulmonary embolism. How much more kung sabay mayroong DVT tapos may PAD, no? So, paano na lang kaya yung matanda? Kawawa masyado si lolo at saka si lola. Pag yung DVT at saka PAD, both nag-cause ng thrombosis. So, walang kawala. Ang taas talaga ng chance to have stroke, what else? Pulmonary embolism, and maybe cardiac arrest. So, yun lang. That is the rationale why it's a major cause of mortality in adults. It is often undiagnosed because nga it is asymptomatic and it is somewhat the same with, for example, person with cramps. Sabi dito, a 65-year-old may experience cramping, no? Cramping fatigue. You would not expect that simple cramping or fatigue is PAD. Most of the time is if an adult experiences cramp or fatigue, it is attributed to electrolyte imbalance. Okay? In the clinical setting, if for example, an elderly is admitted in the hospital class and experiences fatigue and cramping of the legs, the doctors will check for electrolyte panel. Okay? That is parang most of the time, major differential diagnosis, mga electrolyte imbalance. But if there is a classical pattern of that fatigue, even though the electrolytes are replenished very well, and there's no trigger, yung classical pattern, that is now referred to or is maybe lead to a parang duda, no, sa doctors, or an indication that is an intermittent claudication. And that is what is called the hallmark of peripheral arterial disease. Okay? So that intermittent claudication is a symptom, no? A symptom, and it is diagnosed later on. So I will represent in the next page what is the diagnosis to confirm that it is really PAD and not electrolyte imbalance. Now, the burden of PAD is significant not only for limb health, but also for systemic cardiovascular outcomes. For patients with PAD, it will have 2 to 6-fold higher risk for MI, or stroke, cardiac arrest leading to death, compared to those who have ASVD, who have this condition, ASVD, without PAD. So, meaning to say, if you have your patient class in a community or a patient admitted in the hospital, and the patient is diagnosed with hypertension and dyslipidemia, you have to always put that in your mind to counsel your patient about coronary artery disease and peripheral artery disease. How to avoid coronary artery disease and peripheral artery disease. It's the same way if you make your patients take statins and watch out diet and have a regular exercise, you can both address CAD and PAD the same time. Okay? But what is forgotten along the way is when they are both managed together, di ba? Only CAD is monitored. Only CAD is only CAD is monitored most of the time because yun nga kasi sa heart siya nangyayari. Hindi na mo monitor kung nag-improve ba ang peripheral artery ng isang patient. So it is important na later on, bigyan nyo din, remember na pag may CAD ang patient, binigyan siya ng gamot, also assess and monitor peripheral arteries. So that you will, when you say in your desired outcomes as pharmacists that you want to increase quality of life, you will going to increase quality of life by avoiding or by preventing development or serious complications like PAD and that will cause the amputation of lower limbs. Okay, because when a patient reaches that level, the amputation of lower limb of a patient will decrease quality of life of more than 50%. Are you following my discussion? Kung aabot doon sa pag-amputate ng legs, ang decrease ng quality of life is more than 50%. Because if you cannot walk, you don't have lower limbs, you don't have the chance to what? To help yourself, even with simple things at home. You cannot take care of yourself completely if you don't have lower limbs. You may, if you are diligent, but it will be very difficult. Okay? So that is why we really have to prevent that to proceed on that level. So lower extremity pad is strongly linked to increased risk of amputation, sabi dito. Okay? And disability. Will you wait for amputation to happen before you conduct your counseling? So definitely not. That is why as soon as you have found out that the patient has coronary artery disease, make sure that this is also PAD is also detected and managed. And the risk of amputation is very high if a patient has complications such as diabetes. And if that diabetic person has already non-healing foot ulcers. And non-healing foot ulcers, it's non-healing because of less circulation, no? Less circulation. And peripheral arterial disease also promotes ulcers in the patient's limb. So it will aggravate diabetic foot ulcers in a patients with undiagnosed PAD. So na nalilito na yung management ng healthcare team management na why is it the patient's not healing, the patient's foot is not healing despite the very high antibiotics given, despite the management. Maybe the culprit is this one. Okay, do not forget this one, students. Please pay attention because it is really often disregarded. Most of the time, binobombard na ng antibiotics ang patients na may DFU, diabetic foot ulcers. Pero hindi gumagaling. Yun pala, meron siyang PAD. Okay? So, if you have an idea about this, then you will not be afraid to suggest na if ever the patient has dyslipidemia, so you suggest to the doctor, or if it's in the community, you suggest to the patient to consult the doctor and be diagnosed with PAD. Okay? I hope that is clear to everyone. Put it in your memory. May you execute it when the time comes. So from a pharmacy practice perspective, PAD management is multidisciplinary. Hindi siya sa pharmacist lang. It has to be a different member of the team involved. The nurses, the radiologists, and most especially the doctors. So all of us should play reduction of risk, management of all the symptoms, the complications that will lead to risk reduction. We have also to promote lifestyle modification and evidence-based pharmacotherapy. With regards to pharmacotherapy, okay, it's almost the same with everything that we have discussed during prelim and midterms. Parang there's nothing new na nga sa module ko. Pagdating ngayon sa finals, parang na-discuss na siya. Kasi we are talking about complications now. The basics were covered during prelim, and some of it on midterm. So ngayon, as you will see later, or you can scan your module right now, pareho lang yung gamot na binibigay. Okay? As future clinical pharmacists, okay? As future clinical pharmacists, your role is to optimize therapy. So kahit pare-pareho lang yan sila, you have to gain mastery, of course. And you have to optimize when to start, when to adjust, when to stop. Okay? When to replace one drug to another drug. So meaning to say, do not be confused of your role. We have a lot of things to do as pharmacists, but our main role is about the optimization of therapy. So, medyo nalilito kasi yung mga students. As I see during the practice, they somewhat play as doctors. Alam mo yung you play as a doctor, you are the one designing the course of therapy. You can do that. We can review and redesign. But most of the time, we fail to optimize what was given by the doctor. One thing that in the research that we did, one thing the doctor do not really appreciate in our behavior as clinical pharmacists is when we tend to correct and not to help. So when you want to optimize therapy, it has to be done, or it has to be conveyed like you are helping. So when you optimize, for example, statin initiation, you have to review, you have to review the things that are already in the patient's status, patient's laboratory results, and review the appropriateness and convey to the doctor with the evidences that you have learned from the algorithm, from the from maybe from our module, that the patient should receive high intensity or moderate intensity or low intensity. Antiplatelet selection. So we have different antiplatelets. You have to review the patient if binigyan ba siya ng antiplatelet ng doctor or wala, at appropriate ba sa kanyang different conditions. You have to check for contraindications kasi most of the time, doon sa antiplatelets, maraming contraindications. Okay? So, yun siya. Anticoagulant dose. You have different anticoagulants. Non-heparin anticoagulants, very long lists, no? So, go back to your listing, what is the appropriate dose, and adjust if necessary. And of course, do patient education. During our during our visit in some internship sites, clinical pharmacy students are asked to do discharge counseling in the hospital. And they're afraid to counsel patients if there are anticoagulants in the patient discharge medication. So I think that's one of the weakness that we really have to accept and equip ourselves with these anticoagulant drugs. Okay, so that we can help our patients and educate them when to go back for during emergency or when to go to the doctor for re-evaluation. Another year, another here, as pharmacists, counseling patients after revascularization must be balanced regarding balance between dual antiplatelet therapy versus rivaroxaban versus aspirin regimens. Dapat alam natin or ipaalam natin sa ating mga patients kung ano yung kanilang specific advantages, si dual therapy, kung mag-rivaroxaban or kung mag-aspirin plus clopidogrel ang binibigay or aspirin lang. Depende yan siya, di ba? Kung ano yung background, ano yung patient information. Okay? So by bridging pharmacotherapy expertise with patient-centered care, you as clinical pharmacists are integral to improve patient outcomes in patients with peripheral arterial disease. Okay? So I guess I have shown you the pathophysiology in the video. There is really that atherosclerotic plaque deposition in the patient's peripheral artery. So that leads to stenosis, blockage. So it leads to reduced blood flow to extremities. So the reduced blood flow to extremities can cause different complications. We can have endothelial dysfunction, vascular inflammation, and as mentioned, the nasty thrombosis. So as the lumen narrows, the tissue perfusion decreases, causing ischemic pain with exertion. So because of the cell tissue dying because of low perfusion, merong pain na experience ang patient. And that pain with exertion is called claudication. Okay? That is called claudication. Again, ischemic pain with exertion is termed as claudication. Medical term is claudication. Or it is painful even in patients at rest, no? And that pain at rest indicates severe PAD. Okay? That indicates severe PAD. These are the clinical presentations. Up to 50% is asymptomatic, but when it becomes symptomatic, there's intermittent claudication or pain at rest. Also, again, I've mentioned a while ago, non-healing wounds can lead to ulcer, can lead to gangrene. Signs of our PAD in patients, they are represented by diminished pedal pulses, mahina yung pulso sa baba, malamig because of less perfusion, brittle nails because of less nutrients reaching it, and please mind you class, it causes erectile dysfunction. Okay, because we know that erection is with our vasodilation and vasoconstriction, no? And meron tayong trophic skin changes. Nagde-dry. Okay? So these are the clinical presentations. Risk factors. The most significant modifiable risk factor is tobacco use. So we have, as I've mentioned in our learning outcomes, we would like to help our patients to quit smoking. We can give nicotine replacement therapy. So try to learn more about bupropion. Nicotine replacement therapy, varenicline. Ay, nangyayari. Ay, ano ba yun? What else ang binibigay natin for nicotine replacement therapy? That's your assignment. That is one of your goal or one of your expected role to promote NRT so that the patient will minimize smoking and eventually quit smoking and avoid cold turkey. Are you familiar with cold turkey? Yung biglang nag-stop? So do not do that one because smoking and even alcoholism has an effect on the pharmacodynamics and kinetics of a lot of drugs. So it has to be weaned out properly. Okay? So weaning should be slow, using, if the patient really cannot handle withdrawal symptoms, you will going to give NRT. Okay? This is expensive, no? But here in the Philippines, this is expensive. But I have witnessed a lot of NRT options when I visited some places. It's available in a vendo machine. For example, sa Singapore, meron silang vendo machine ng mga nicotine patch, nicotine gums, spray, meron mga ganon. Meron din doon sa Vancouver last time, maraming options para if ever hindi makalabas yung isang tao to smoke na sa airport or walang cigarette, no, they can buy. So that is also helpful in a medical setting or medical context if a patient is doing or is having NRT because as part of their pharmacotherapy. Okay, there are options. Dito sa Philippines, mahirap kasi dadaan ka pa or maraming strict yung dispensing natin on NRT products. Okay? Risk factor is diabetes mellitus. Again, don't need to further explain that one. This self-explanatory. You know already DM1 or DM2 it results to poor perfusion, and of course, because of the glucose, they are prone to uh, infection, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and I have mentioned increasing age already. So please review the goals of therapy. It's generally the same, but this is the most unique for this one. Prevent limb loss. Okay? Alleviate claudication or alleviate pain. We can improve quality of life by reducing the pain, reducing claudication, and of course, if we can prevent limb loss. I have mentioned also about our role in diagnostic strategies. We are not the one who diagnose it, but we help if the patient needs to be subjected to diagnostic tool for PAD to be screened and confirmed. So what are the diagnostic tools that we can suggest? These are the tools. We can have this ankle brachial index, ABI. So there's a value for this less than 0.9 is, it says it confirms the PAD. More than 1.4 indicates non-compressible arteries, meaning it's on the severe side already. So, just for your FYI, ito yung ating pwedeng uh, ito yung, kung makita yung patient profile and you suspect that the patient has PAD, you may suggest this, or you may see it on a patient's profile. You know now that ABI, no? Hindi lang ABG. Meron tayong ABI, ankle brachial index. And this is for PAD screening. We can also do imaging. These are the things that we can check, suggest, and check to see if there is stenosis. Ano yung stenosis? Narrowing of vessel. Okay? For example, hindi na ako mag-drawing, magulo na masyado. Basta you will see in the imaging if there's stenosis on the lower limb. And that is indicative of peripheral arterial disease. A screening is recommended for high-risk groups, like people who smoke and people who has diabetes, and also those that are more than 50 years old. If they are high risk, we really have to impose non-pharmacological measures. Okay, smoking cessation, again, NRT, to help lessen the risk of amputation and death. Structured exercise therapy. It has to be supervised treadmill programs, for example. Huh? So, yung ating minemorize before, at least 15 minutes of moderate moderate cardiovascular cardio moderate cardio exercise. Okay? Kung may treadmill, can be supervised treadmill programs. Right? Aside from that, dietary modification. Ano yung Mediterranean diet class? Are you familiar? Anyone who has an idea what is Mediterranean diet? Anyone? Is it applied to even healthy people? Hello, are you still there? Anong example ng Mediterranean diet? Yes, Lionel.
Ma'am, hindi ko sure. Pero ano po, parang more on greens, mga vegetables and meat.
Okay. That's right. More on fruits, vegetables. Ano to sabi ni Don? Limiting red meat. That's also correct. We replace the red meat, like we usually have beef, no, or pork. We replace it with fish and legumes, those things. Also, chicken and egg. So, ang pinaka main ano natin sa Mediterranean diet, less talaga ang red meat coming from beef. Okay? So, hindi masyado na-mention dito yung DASH diet. Actually, most of the diets na binibigay for non-pharmacological measure, yung Mediterranean diet pyramid yung suggested most of the time. So, eat more fruits, eat more beans, legumes, no pa. Most of the time, also, I don't know what is the replacement kung hindi makabili ng salmon kasi it was mentioned talaga this one. But if not, I don't know what can be our replacement for that. That's for the nutritionist to find out. But sometimes red meat, the beef is replaced with, not sometimes, it is there, mentioned there that the red meat is replaced with salmon. Okay. And then let's proceed. Foot care, especially in diabetic patients, exercise therapy, sabi na natin dyan, structured community-based exercise, pwede din if the patient can afford. If not, then you can refer your patient for YT. You can refer your patient to Sir YouTube. What will be the things that they can do, no? Mga exercises that they can do. You can show them through YouTube, give them links so that they can follow it. If they cannot afford yung mga ganitong programs, no? Mayroon din sa YouTube kasi na free na pwede. Okay? Then revascularization. So, consider if the non-pharmacological lifestyle change and pharmacological therapy failed, did not work. So, you are going to perform, patient will undergo revascularization. Okay? So, that's surgical. Now, let's move on to the interesting part as pharmacists. As pharmacists, please be mindful of this. These are our desired outcomes as mentioned, specific to pharmacological measures. Okay? So, meron tayo ditong, I know you understand this already. Meron tayo ditong decreased myocardial infarction, stroke, and death. This would be our general desired outcomes, and that would be serving as our basis for monitoring. Diba? For our MI, we have troponin levels for we have troponin levels to monitor. So if we want to reduce MI reduction in our monitoring later on, you have to include monitoring of troponin levels and as well as ECG. Okay? Regular ECG monitoring. Why am I saying this right now? Because this is our desired outcomes. If you state this as your desired outcomes, you have to know what are the monitoring parameters to achieve your desired outcomes. If you want to say no MI to have, not you will not allow MI to happen, you will not allow stroke to happen, then you have to monitor troponin and ECG. Control modifiable risk. You have to monitor BP, lipid, the HbA1c, and do smoking cessation management. Okay? So now, I haven't, yeah, that's right. I have not included NRT, specific, specific doses of these things here. Please research this. Okay, please research that. You have to know the course of therapy, how to design, what are the specific regimen for bupropion and varenicline as NRT. No, because that is our first priority, to make the patient stop or wean smoking and eventually stop smoking. Then, aside from that, on top of that, NRT, on top of that, you need to manage hypertension. Okay? As mentioned, this is our goal. This is in our prelims. This is the preferred, di ba? And if you can remember, in Canadian algorithm, it is dual. In US, it's mono, the first line. Actually, now in the Philippines, I have consulted different cardiologists and they are following dual therapy. Okay? As initial. Okay? Hindi na, nagtanong ako kung bakit marami pa rin nagpe-prescribe ng losartan lang, no? Losartan lang, walang amlodipine. Losartan lang, walang indapamide. Bakit ganun, Doc? One main reason of that is because of economical barrier. Kasi mas mahal ang combination or dual therapy. And alam niyo yung libreng gamot sa mga government center, barangay centers, ang nade-deploy mga mono na single active ingredient. Losartan lang, single lang, losartan, indapamide. So, kaya marami pa rin nagpe-prescribe ng mono, but they really prefer dual. And if I say dual, most of the time, it is ACE-I plus thiazide, ARBs plus thiazide. No, yun yung first line. And it is preferred to have long-acting thiazide, which is the indapamide. Okay, you remember our first topic on hypertension? It's the same here with PAD. May nag-question before kasi yung mommy niya naka-beta blockers for so long. I hope that was already resolved. But beta blockers really is in the last part of the algorithm, and it is acceptable if the patient has heart failure and coronary artery disease, meaning the patient's heart has a problem with pumping, so we need beta blocker to lessen the beat, to decrease the burden on the heart. Okay? After our lecture today, we will have heart failure next week. Patients should be receiving anti-dyslipidemic medications. We will consider high-intensity statin. We can give ezetimibe. Okay? If the patient's LDL is more than 70. Okay? Yan, may mga conditions. I will not expect everyone to memorize everything at once. Please read it again and again and again, because at this point, we are on week 13. I am expecting that your mastery on the drugs is now more than 50%. Mastery on the therapy, on cardiovascular, is more than 50%. Okay? So that's my expectation. So please review the modules. Even if we're done with hypertension, with AF, babalik tayo doon, especially sa heart failure next week. Plus ha, I would like to remind everyone, review. Even if no exam, no quiz, but during lecture, it will come out every time so that you can help yourself read again the modules. Now, for diabetes, you don't have your endocrinology right now na subject, or meron na. Kung meron na, good thing. So ito yung ating approach for diabetic patients. May mga side effects or may mga negative, lang ito sila, not really negative, mga disadvantages. So, what's important is we have to make sure na individualize yung ating monitoring. Aside from that, vaccinations. Annual vaccination for flu. Then we can have our COVID vaccination. Ay meron ng titer. Merong titer checking dito sa Davao. I'm not sure kung sa ibang lugar meron ba. I just knew it sa SG Diagnostic for those who are here in Davao City. Sabi nung manager, meron daw silang COVID titer to check if your COVID vaccine is still working or not. So, pwede kayong magpa-COVID titer. Pwede, di ba may titer tayo to check the antibodies present? Are you familiar with that, class? Or I'm talking nonsense right now? Hindi nyo wala kayong idea. Titer, no, antibody titer. Every time you have vaccine, we develop an antibodies. No, we develop antibodies, and we can check the level of antibodies if our vaccine is still working. And commonly, meron tayo dito sa HEPA, no? Sa HEPA vaccine. To check if our HEPA vaccine still viable. Pwede pang hindi magpaturok. Ngayon, pwede nang malaman kung effective pa yung tinurok sa inyo na Sputnik, magpa-titer kayo. O ano ba yung tinurok sa inyo dyan? Overall, yung patients natin dapat kompleto sa vaccine. Now, specifics. For antiplatelet therapy, specific for symptomatic PAD, ito yung ating ibibigay. Ito yung ibigay ng doctor, aspirin, okay, or clopidogrel. So, meron tayong aspirin, 75 mg to 325 mg. By the way, class, this is from DiPiro, ha? These are all from DiPiro. Clopidogrel is preferred in some patients, but clopidogrel is nasty with this drug interaction. Take note of that. Then sometimes, no, if there's a need for dual antiplatelet therapy, then we will going to have this one. What are the conditions before we have discussed that requires dual antiplatelet therapy? Now, if the patient has acute coronary syndrome, right? If the patient has acute coronary syndrome, there's a risk, or there is already post-MI or post-stroke, the patient is given dual antiplatelet therapy. Okay? So, if the patient has high risk for stroke, then we can give rivaroxaban and low-dose aspirin. So, as you can see, if these two is given together, it can be very potent because it will lead to bleeding. But it really has to be done, especially if a patient has a very high risk for thrombosis and stroke. No? So yun siya. It has to be monitored well for this one. Cilostazole. Cilostazole, meron, ito yung first time nag-appear si cilostazole sa lecture natin. Right? Ito yung first time na nag-appear. Tama ba? Ito ba yung first time na nag-appear ang cilostazole na gamot sa lecture natin? Okay. With the brand name of Letaal. Okay. This one is specific for the pain intermittent claudication. It helps for the ischemic pain of the leg. So, Letaal is given for that one, but it is contraindicated to patients with heart failure. Okay? Now, it mentions here na you can trial it for 12 weeks maximum. Then discontinue if the pain that the pain of the patient does not improve at all, meaning no benefit. So that's cilostazole. Then other agents, Vorapaxar. Have you heard of this? Vorapaxar. Pentoxifylline. Okay. I included it here because it's in our DPRO, but actually their use is very limited, no, because they are nasty to cause bleeding. It's included here because some doctors or some management has mentioned their use, but they are not really utilized in maximum level, no, like the other one. So this is just for FYI, just so you know, if ever may mga questions pang palito, alam ninyo na hindi sila yung first line of treatment. All right? Monitoring and follow-up. So for clinical monitoring, of course, you have to assess symptoms. There is the pain ongoing, how to evaluate the pain, check the pain scale, the ability of patients also to walk. Is there any signs of bleeding? And then quality of life is difficult to solve, but clinically speaking, quality of life is when a patient can take care of himself without relying to any healthcare or to any tawag niyan, nakalimutan ko yung term, without relying to anyone, yun na lang. Okay. Risk factors. We have to monitor and follow up for the BP, LDL, HbA1c. So meaning tutuhugin niyo yan siya lahat. Na-mention ko na yan din kanina. Do not forget, class, to check for the renal function and hemoglobin and hematocrit level. So we are not the ones who order this, but when it is forgotten, we have to remind the doctor to order it. And when it is available, we have to review the values. What are the things you need to amend, you need to substitute, you need to stop based on this. Okay? In summary, this is the foundation, lifestyle and risk factor control that includes nicotine replacement therapy, the standard therapy, exercise, and our antiplatelets, anticoagulants, and statin. It depends on our doctors how to proceed with the level of intensity. If it's monotherapy with the antiplatelet, if it's in combination with anticoagulants, if it's high intensity statin, it depends on the patient's manifestation and how the doctor assessed it. And your role is to optimize it. Okay? Revascularization, if everything fails, you will need to revascularize. And that's the doctor's decision. When there is revascularization order, your role is to verify if these things were given, if these things were applied and given, followed by the patient, carried out by the patient, but did not work out accordingly. So revascularization is done. Also, cilostazol for symptomatic relief, and this one has been mentioned. What else? Very, very basic. Patients with these conditions has different considerations, and it is not different if patient has coronary artery disease. It's the same, it's the same considerations. Okay? May mga specifics akong nilagay dito na sana kung mag-duty na kayo, mabalikan ninyo ang mga ito para you'll be able to optimize really the patient's therapy. It was mentioned above, but this is just the gist of it, no? Para makita nyo kaagad. Okay? And this is the algorithm. This is from DiPiro again. It's not the actual picture from DiPiro, ha? Kasi marami siyang tables, marami siyang doon, figures. This is the summary of the treatment algorithm from DiPiro. Risk factor modification, pharmacotherapy, cilostazol, and surgical treatment already. Okay? So this one is for your TLA or your assignment. You can answer it later on. So that is all for peripheral arterial disease. I can entertain 5 minutes for questions, and then we will have the post-lecture quiz. It's a very, very simple quiz. True or false lang naman. Any questions? Questions? Anong mga questions meron kayo dyan? Was it that clear? No questions? Or are you studying right now? Okay, kung walang questions, then we can now end our meet. I will just share the lecture, post-lecture link, post-lecture quiz link in the chat box. Okay. So when you have the link, leave the meet and answer it. Thank you, everyone, and happy World Pharmacist Day. See you next week once again.